We'll call the meeting to order. It's 6:30. Second thing on the agenda is to talk about going into executive session to talk about the environmental court's trio of Rule 59 decisions. Do we need to go into executive session for this?
I would defer to the town attorney.
Litigation strategy, it seems to me the prudent thing to do. Okay.
Are we? I guess would be the question.
You may. You could always go in, have the initial conversation, gauge it, come back out and finish it here if you think you're headed down a different track.
So, I've got two motions to read first. Would someone make a motion to find that the premature general public disclosure would place the municipality at a substantial disadvantage with regards to potential or probable litigation in which the municipality is a party?
So moved.
Can I have a second? Okay. Trevor, are you taking notes?
Yep, Phil and Tom.
We gotta make a motion.
Just a minute.
Was that the finding motion or the...
That was the first one.
First one, okay.
Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, now I need a motion to enter executive session pursuant to 1 VSA 313A1E and F to include the town administrator and the town attorney for the purpose of discussing the environmental court's Rule 59 decisions regarding Hannaford and possible appeals to the Supreme Court.
So moved. Second.
Do we need any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Go to Renee's office, it's air conditioned. Again, hello? So, we've been in executive session, so the first thing I need is a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed or any abstentions? Okay. Go ahead.
I'd like to consider a motion.
Gotta use the old school one, yeah. The other one's just for the camera. We're on house audio tonight. Yeah, with the one camera setup.
Consider a motion to authorize the town attorney to file appeals with the Vermont Supreme Court regarding Hannaford and the environmental court decision.
Can I have a second? Sorry.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor say, yeah, thank you. So, any discussion from the board?
I would say
Explanation?
one of our concerns is the removal of the traffic study that was part of the original permit. The traffic study, after 2 years of activity at the store. So that was one concern, and I think the second one associated with regarding the requirement to install a traffic light on Mechanicsville Road. So those were two concerns the town has.
Okay. Just go ahead, Andrew.
Well, and there's already been an appeal filed by the other parties, and kind of the reason that we're participating is we need to uphold the decisions that came out of the DRB hearings and the DRB plan.
Yeah. So just for you don't know, this is in regards to the continuing Hannaford's discussion and legal matters. So any more discussion? Phil, can you read the motion again?
Sure. Consider a motion to authorize the town attorney to file appeals with the Vermont Supreme Court in association with the environmental court decisions around Hannaford's.
Okay. Any more? You ready to vote? All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Or any abstentions? Okay, we're going to go on to the next thing on the agenda. So a couple things about tonight. We're going to talk about the Geprags agreements. So we have a microphone down front tonight. So if you want to speak, just stand up and I can have you come down front. I just want to read a few things. Comments must have a bearing on the topic of discussion, the proposed agreement. Under no circumstances can any participant engage in a personal attack on anyone else in attendance. The topic of discussion, not the individual, is the subject of debate. All remarks from the public must be addressed to the board, specifically the chair. Members of the public must first be recognized by the chair and shall provide a full name and address, community of residence. Yeah, I don't need your specific street or road. To the extent practicable, repetitive or dilatory commentary should be avoided. Participants are expected to be judicious with speaking time so that everyone may have an opportunity. 2 minutes or less per person is preferred. Members of the public may be allowed to speak a second or subsequent time, provided all who wish to speak have had at least one opportunity. No blurting or interrupting, preferably. Okay, so we are going to be voting on a motion tonight. Or actually, well, let's see. So before we're done tonight, we're going to have a motion to accept to accept V06.04 of the deed of easement, stipulated agreement, and attachment part.
What?
That's the compensation part.
Okay. And if there are other changes, we would be open to making other amendments?
Amendments.
Okay.
Okay.
11 and 12 in the stipulation would be where the two compensation pieces. The second 12 would be deleted. They'd both be combined in 11 as the 250.
Your mic's not on.
We're not on.
Even I got to pick on you about that one.
However, whoa! Good evening! So 11 and 12 would be combined into one single paragraph, number 11 with the 250. There are multiple references throughout to where there's some language that leaves the option open at Vermont Gas's discretion about whether they directional drill or open trench, I think is the other option. All of those would essentially be simplified to say Vermont Gas shall use horizontal directional drilling to cross Geprags Park or something of that nature, to be as simple as possible with that. And then the performance bond language would still have to be, I mean, it depends on some of the detailed conditions in it, and I don't know where we could stick that anywhere. And the directional drilling pieces would have to be made, that's the one thing that goes in both the deed of easement and stipulated agreement.
Sure.
I have some additional questions that I would like to ask our attorney to be able to explain to us.
Okay. Bud, you want to come down here so you can...
I would like to understand what is meant by number 21, jurisdiction. It says the parties agree that the Public Service Board will have continuing jurisdiction to enforce the terms and conditions of this revised stipulation. And I'm concerned that that basically writes the town out of filing a complaint. I mean, we have something in, I'd like to understand where the town has any authority in this stipulation or in this easement, in this.
We can petition the Public Service Board. We're a party to this proceeding for the Public Service Board. We would be a party. I'll bring it to the top. We're a party to the proceeding before the Public Service Board. We could petition the Public Service Board for enforcement if we wanted to, if the need arose.
Okay, so if there's, if in section where we talk about talks about environmental inspector reimbursement. So this basically says that Vermont Gas will give us up to $1,000 a week to...
What section are we talking about? Help?
18, yeah.
Okay. So if we find a problem, if the inspector finds a problem in the construction, the whole process, I mean, it doesn't say that we have any authority to do anything to remedy the problem. It would have to go to the Public Service Board?
Yes,
Okay. I just want to clarify that basically everything that happens here, the town needs to go through the Public Service Board to get a remedy.
well, I believe what it says is to enforce the terms and conditions of stipulation of the deed of easement, you would have to go through the Public Service Board. If Vermont Gas is taking hostages, we can proceed with criminal proceedings. Other things can be addressed by going through Superior Court. But as far as the enforcement of these documents, that would be confined to the Public Service Board.
Okay, and the enforcement of any other items that are within the Certificate of Public Good. So this is in addition to whatever is
Yes.
Vermont Gas is obligated
Yeah.
to.
If they put up a big sign saying this is being brought to you by Vermont Gas Systems, it's a violation of our zoning ordinance. We can proceed on that as a zoning violation.
Okay. And a couple other.
Sure. For Bill, for Bud?
Yep. So I guess you answered number 20, which was, the adequacy of the compensation. Oh, well, first I'm going to go back to, I would like to strike from the number 13. I don't think that it really has any bearing on the compensation to include that it's an estimated value of $470,000. That's an estimate from Vermont Gas. We have no way of verifying that. We did ask for them to extend the pipeline up Richmond Road, but whatever it costs, that's their cost. It's not something that's going to benefit the town as a whole. So I would like to make an amendment to strike the value of $470,000.
Okay, just a second. Is that okay?
Can I ask a clarifying question on it?
Yeah.
So is the reason to strike that because if it exceeds that they wouldn't do it, or just more on principle, just the number, or should it read otherwise to say at their cost?
The cost is inconsequential to the town. I think it's like they've agreed to do this. That's whatever it costs. It should not be considered as a number, just as previous thing said how much taxes they were going to pay. That is irrelevant to this stipulation. So,
Okay.
I'm agreeable to that. I agree
are you
with that.
seconding my amendment?
I'll second that.
And you'd keep the date in there, I assume? The next, it says the dollar amount by date.
No, that's a
No,
different
I would
spot.
say that we-
By 6/1/2007, we'd leave that there and just take out the value. Just strike,
Just the number,
yeah.
the dollar.
We have a second on that. So now, oh God, I'm going to start writing this down. Okay, so now we have a motion to strike from page 3, section 13,
And stipulation.
the stipulation, dollar value of $470,000 and the date. Is that correct?
No, we leave the
No,
date,
leave the
just
date.
the value.
Oh, so strike the...
Strike at an estimated value of 470,000.
Okay.
So we're just striking that phrase at an estimate value of $470,000.
Any other comments from the board?
Well, that's more than I'll wait.
We got to vote on this one.
Okay.
Personally, I don't really care, but, okay, all those in favor of striking that dollar value, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, or any abstentions? Okay. Trevor, you got that?
So just to clarify, the motion now as amended goes back to the original one where it
Yes.
was to approve version 0604 with the
Yes.
amendments. They're now sort of the full 4 bulleted amendments. The 250, the directional drilling, the performance bond, and striking the 470,000 from
Yes.
number 13 in the stipulated agreement.
Yes. Andrea, go ahead. And that passed, so.
I think I'll wait. I'll come back with some more later if somebody else
So I have a couple amendments I'd like to consider. The first one, well, I'll go with this one here on section 12. No, look how small it is.
I'm sorry?
No, this is good. I can see it. In section 12, that I don't believe we should be tied to these dates because we don't really control these dates. There's a date by October 1st. It's hard for me to read. Additional compensation for timely completion in the event of the following two conditions are not met. Vermont Gas is granted a final decision by October 1st. So we don't have control of that. And so I don't think that should be a stipulation. And that the pipeline is completed by December 31st. Again, there are lots of things that might prevent that. And so I don't think that should be part of this stipulation, those two dates.
Phil, if I might, I believe that with the new stipulation, that section is one that would be removed. Is that correct, Trevor?
12 would be removed entirely, 11 would be modified to say 250. So it takes care of the dates and times, but...
Very good, thank you. That sounds good. And then the last one, I'd like to change the compensation from $250,000 to $500,000.
Is that a motion?
Yes, that's my motion.
I'll second it.
Second it. Do you want to allow it? Discussion? There's a motion on the table.
Yeah, I would say, as tempting as that is, of course, the more the better. As tempting as that is, the more the better, obviously, is good. I worry about stretching that rubber band too much and putting too much tension on this. And if that might be the breaking point, and what we might end up with is something closer to just the appraised value. I mean, that's a risk that we'd be taking as a town. That's one concern I have with that. Not that I'm opposed to receiving $500,000 instead of $250,000.
I'll let Andrea speak.
Well, I think this process that we're going through tonight is putting forward what we as a town feel is appropriate for it. I'm surprised that $500,000 was put on the table several weeks ago. So I don't think it's stretching the rubber band. We are talking about signing an agreement so that we don't go with just the appraised value. At this point, I think we are doing our negotiating in public and saying that we think that $500,000, and I would personally think it might be higher, would be just compensation for what we're doing. And we should not be thwarted from putting forward what we think are the best things for our town. And there is no reason to not put it on the table because Vermont Gas put it on the table 3 weeks ago. So I have no problem asking for.
Yeah, of course, Vermont Gas put it on the table with the different options of drilling as part of the stipulation. So I agree 100% with you that this is at best awkward to have these kind of negotiation conversations in public. The nature of how we have to do that. I just worry about what is that breaking point I have in front of,
Well, I think there'll be an opportunity for Vermont Gas, whether at this meeting or afterwards, because perhaps we won't come to an agreement, to come back and continue negotiation. I mean, it's not over until we come to a stipulation that is going to benefit the town and the park and future generations of this town.
Okay. Tom, do you have any comment?
I guess at this point, I'd like to hear, from the other party in this, Vermont Gas, with regards to the motion. I mean, I agree with Aaron that there were different circumstances with that last proposal, or last proposed agreement, that are different this time around, and I'd like to hear what those differences are.
Go ahead, Tom.
Good evening. This is Tom Ray with Vermont You're correct, Tom. The $500,000 that was put on the table was a settlement offer that did not include a directional drill. And it was a settlement offer to the Selectboard town and to all of the interveners. Remember, there's another group out there in the eminent domain. That was a pretty comprehensive and comprehensive package, if you will. I think what we've heard tonight with the amendment for $250,000 and HDD or a horizontal directional drill is a significant, would be a significant investment for Vermont Gas to get through Geprags Park in an environmentally sensitive way. I've been to several meetings now over the last couple months that I've been involved in this, and the drumbeat that I've heard is, you know, let's protect the park. It has been less about financial compensation for the most part, and I think that drilling the park addresses all of those to the environmental concerns, and I think the $250,000 is more than reasonable. I think if we were talking $500,000 and an HDD, I think we would probably not want to engage in that deal.
Thank you. Go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, just a couple comments on this. Number one, I think several years ago, probably 2 or 3, when we first were getting involved in this pipeline, I brought up the fact that Vermont Gas negotiates individually with different landowners. And I thought that process was not a good process because it left it up to each landowner to get the best deal they can, and it put neighbor against neighbor. So it didn't feel like a fair process. We as a board came up with what we thought was a reasonable agreement back a year and a half ago or whatever it was. And since then, some information has come out with what some of the settlements have been for other landowners, which has, you know, I think opened up my eyes. Also, I think it's a point to be made that this is a public park, it's public land, and the town is responsible for it. So the value of it goes far beyond what some of the other easement values are, and I think that this is a reasonable value. And you know, I think the HDD really is, and I've said this before, an action that Vermont Gas should do to protect where it's going versus putting it its value as something they're giving rather than something they should do to protect the land. So I don't think it's a sort of give and take piece. That's my thoughts.
Okay. So I'm just going to make a comment myself, if that's okay? Mm-hmm. So when that $500,000 was offered, it was a $500,000 or to horizontally drill the whole thing. I'm very concerned about the park. So I kind of think I would be leaning towards the $250,000 with the understanding that the goal is to get the park drilled, horizontally drilled. So that's kind of where I'm coming from, because I want to protect the park. So to go back to that offer of $500,000, it was $500,000 or horizontally drill the park. So it's kind of a mid thing in both ways. So that's where I'm at. Any other comments from the board?
I mean, I kind of agree with Mike. Obviously, the $500,000 carrot would be that's a big one. But on the other hand, I think that the subcommittee worked hard with Vermont Gas to give and take quite a bit. I think they've upped their offer quite a lot, cash-wise and the horizontal drill. And I'm sure the horizontal drill, not that that's our concern, but it's a huge expense. And I appreciate that they're willing to go 1,800 feet on a horizontal drill. So I'm kind of with Michael. I think they're two different offers made for two different reasons, and they're just not. It's not the same. It's not the same thing. So I'd not be willing to pass up this offer, which I think is a very good offer, for the sake of trying to get more at this point in the process. I think that negotiation part of the process is passed.
Any more comments? Okay, so the motion on the table, if I'm correct, Phil, is to change the compensation amount from $250,000 to $500,000. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed say no.
No.
Okay, the measure fails. Okay. Any other comments from the board?
Oh, go ahead.
So just to sort of follow up on that, and my assumption, but I haven't seen any of the outcome of the meeting last night, that the Conservation Commission and the outcome of the meeting was your First Amendment, that there was a wish to do the HDD through the park, and that's what the committee came up with?
It's the preferred method, yes.
By the committee?
Yeah. Okay. I think seriously. Andrew?
Well, another thing that I don't find, in terms of compensation, number 15, road preservation measures. That's already, I think, part of their certificate of public good, is that they're supposed to take care of the roads. We already have evidence from this spring and winter work that they were doing, that they were ignoring the town posting regulations, and I don't know whether there's been any compensation for those violations. So I feel like that is well, what good does number 15 do?
Just for the historic context, that was added prior to our request. So
At what?
that was added prior for the town's request.
The road
So
preservation.
whether or not the language is right, but the idea,
Right,
that
but
was an earlier ask of ours.
So I think we
just
need
for
to step up our
context.
game.
we what?
We probably should step up our game and start holding them more accountable.
Yeah.
With,
I mean, but what are we going to do? I mean, it doesn't give us any. It says they're going to videotape it, but are we going to penalize them? What are the penalties we're going to
Well, it
obligate them to?
It shows 19 VSA 1111.
Yeah, but this is about the town of Hinesburg, and
Well, I understand, but
and it's included in the compensation. So I would assume that there's some way that we are going to go above and beyond what they're already obligated to do, if it's in the
Fair point.
compensation.
I'm looking for a comment. Trevor, do you have anything?
Well,
I think Frank is, go ahead.
I think what's different than if this wasn't there was that there would be this video document showing the condition of the roads
We'll probably send them a bill.
beforehand.
Send them a bill.
That's all this really does.
But meanwhile, it's half the summer. It's been going on for 6 months.
And they've offered to essentially cover some of the costs for the repairs that were needed for the Baldwin Road. They just need a list from us. They've offered some of the chloride to cover some of the expenses. They've offered to use their equipment to spread that essentially, but it's simply easier and preferred for us to have our highway crew do it. So there have been some overtures made or some discussions had related to Baldwin Road. When you think about the rest of the route and how it impacts town roads, they're going under Sheldon Falls Road. They'll be going under, I believe, Charlotte Road. And then I think it leaves maybe Drinkwater, a section of Drinkwater, and maybe one other. And they may be going under one of those too.
Baldwin Road.
Baldwin Road's the only one where would likely have this same kind of impact, as they're using it also to, I think, service points farther south, outside of town, possibly even. They have an access point kind of down southern end of Baldwin Road.
But so it may be expedient for the town to be doing this additional work because of the traffic, but I would like to see some compensation for that, and recognition of the fact that there's going to be oversight of the HDD under the roads, and I think that that is in the CPG, but I would hope that we research that to assure that any problems that come from those crossings are going to be dealt with by Vermont Gas and they aren't ours in the future.
Okay, that's a good point. Thank you. Anything else from anybody? Okay, I'm going to open it up to the audience for comment. I'm going to ask you to come forward, be recognized, and I guess I'll read this again. Comments must have bearing on the topic of discussion, the proposed agreement. Under no circumstances can any participant engage in a personal attack on anyone else in attendance. The topic, and you have to turn your phones to quiet too. The topic of discussion, not the topic should be we should be discussing the topic, not the individual, and is the subject of debate. All remarks from the public must be addressed to the board, specifically the chair or the vice chair. Members of the public must be recognized by the chair and shall provide their full name and community of residence. To the extent practical, repetitive, or dilatory, commentary should be avoided. Please try not to be say the same thing over and over. Participants are expected to be judicious with speaking time so that everyone that may have an opportunity. 2 minutes or less per person is preferred. Members of the public may be allowed to speak a second or subsequent time, provided that all who wish to speak have had at least one opportunity. Please be respectful and don't interrupt each other. Okay.
My name is Ann Ross.
Ann Ross.
I live in Hinesburg. I own a house in Hinesburg. And I have a question, because you were saying that this pipe through the park is going to be is it HDD?
It's
HDD.
Horizontally.
I know it's horizontally drilled, but the material that you're going to use is my question.
Okay.
And is it high density polyethylene? Is it steel?
No.
It's steel.
No, what I'm going to do is I'm going to let you finish your question. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm going to let you finish your question, and then I'll actually have the people from Vermont Gas answer it specifically to get good points.
Okay, so the horizontal drilling is going to be steel. Is it going to be double contained? And is it going to have the proper sensors that it has all along the rest of the pipeline between the, I'm understanding that it's a double contained pipe, so that if the inner pipe would leak, it would be detected by the outer pipe sensors. So I just wanted to know if there's any compromise on the material and the installation of the horizontal drilling.
Okay.
In relation to something where you just dig up a trench and you put the pipe in and weld it up. So that's pretty much my question.
Fair question. Thank you. Can somebody stand up and explain the process so that we all can understand it? Just remind me who you are again.
Hi, my name is John St. Clair.
Yep.
I'm VP of Operations with Vermont Gas. The pipeline will be a single wall steel pipeline. It'll go through many tests before it goes into operation. So it'll have it'll go through a pressure test, which will test the pipe up to, I believe it's 2,200 PSI, and its operating pressure will be much lower than that. We will actually have smart tools that will go through and measure the integrity of the steel pipeline, the thickness of the steel to make sure that there's no anomalies, and then the integrity of the welds.
Don't you have like a robot that goes down through it every once in a while? I remember way back in one of the committee meetings they were talking about that.
Yeah, it's once every 7 years. It's these smart tools. They sometimes called smart pigs. So once every 7 years, we'll send one down through.
Okay.
And we'll actually have one go down within 12 months of. So we'll do one at commissioning and another one within 12 months.
Okay.
So I think the question was, is the pipe any different for HDD than it would be from trenching?
Sorry. It is not any different. It has different coating to help protect it as it's being pulled through, but the quality of the steel is the same. There is no difference, just a different type of coating to protect it because of when it's pulled through, it's got a higher level of coating.
Is it only polyethylene?
It is not polyethylene. They make special coating that's more resistant to abrasion. So there's a coating to protect it from corrosion, and then there's another coating that is put on it to help protect it just from the abrasion of being pulled into the board.
Thank you, John. Somebody else? Nancy, come on down.
Hi, I'm Nancy Baker. I've lived in Hinesburg for 35 years, and I have several questions. One is, if we were supposed to comment on what was on the website, and you have now changed this document, why are we talking about voting on it tonight when we haven't had time to comment on it? Because you've changed it, and nobody knew that, what the changes were. And my other is, I keep hearing that no matter what, if they do HDD, the wetland will be better protected, they'll be able to put the wetland back better than before. And I would like an answer to what kind of things can you plant over the pipeline once it's put in with HDD? Do they still have to keep it mowed like the other easements that the power line has, in which case you're not putting it back the way it was or better. It's still going to have this slash through a wetland. And why are we even talking about this when no wetland permit has even been issued for this area? So those are my 3 questions.
It's more than that, okay. Can somebody from Vermont guess?
I can. Can I just refresh the question on what was the? You had a question about the vote first.
Yeah, you have to talk.
He was just clarifying the questions before I answered.
Just clarifying the question.
Okay, the first question was, how can we be talking about a document that was not on the website because it's been changed as of a meeting yesterday and it should have been posted, and then we would comment on the new things that are in it, to how can you say you can put the wetlands back if you still have to keep a mode access over your pipeline? And 3, why are we even talking about this when you haven't received a wetland permit yet? And it just seems like we're wasting a lot of people's time and money. Okay?
I'll at some point have to defer to the attorney on the first question. I think the general practice in municipal and government practice is that agreements do get amended occasionally in the course of the final discussion. It's pretty common practice. So I'll defer on that one. But on the question about the corridor maintenance, obviously when we do an HDD, and in this case we're willing to have even a lighter touch right-of-way maintenance. And what I mean by that is, rather than having a mowed 20-foot swath, if you will, we're talking about a 5-foot walking path essentially that we would mow every 2 or 3 years going up through there. So it's and we generally probably mow it in the fall just to keep it so that it was accessible. So it's a pretty modest thing you're going to have there in terms of access compared to what you might think of as a big swath. So I think that's our commitment to try to protect the park, and we're certainly willing to work with the Conservation Commission once we go forward to work out all the details around that. That's what it talks about in the agreement. And the last one was the wetland permit. It's our understanding in discussions with A&R that if we go the HDD route, because we're not disrupting the wetlands, that we do not need to update our wetland permits. And I think that's been said to some others as well too. So I think that's the guidance we have for now.
Okay. So the way I understand it is we had documents that have been posted on the internet for people to look at, and basically what we've done is the motion is on those documents as amended, correct? Okay, I'm not going to make you get up. Thank you. Any more questions? Let's try somebody from over on this side of the room this time.
What was the answer to that one?
What?
What was the answer to the last one?
Oh, the document's been on the website. So the motion is to approve those documents as amended. That's where the motion is. Just like take the $470,000 out.
The third question was on the wet.
Just a minute. Just a minute. You started to talk.
That third question, is that your question was on the wetlands, and Vermont Gas is saying with the HDD, they don't believe they need to amend the wetlands permit if it's horizontally drilled.
Okay. Another comment? Bob?
Hi. Bob Hines, Conservation Commission. First of all, I'm looking for some clarification. So we were in a subcommittee meeting for 2 hours yesterday, covered a lot of material. A lot of material did not get covered because we ran out of time. What does this document represent relative to what we discussed yesterday?
Well, I think a lot of the things we talked about yesterday were actually already embedded in the document. I think you talked about what was it, 70, Trevor, was it 70, 90 with some of the stuff? A lot of the questions that you had was already in the document.
Well, but there was plenty that wasn't discussed.
Yes, HDD takes care of a lot of them too.
There was plenty that wasn't. So I'll just ask this. There's not a track changes version of this document that shows how it changed from yesterday to today, or has it not changed? Because also peppered throughout both these documents is all kinds of outs for VGS. There's language in here that says VGS at their discretion will choose between HDD and trench and fill. And that's how the document was yesterday. Maybe you guys have changed that. Yeah. I have no way of knowing. Okay. Another point. I believe you responded that it was that the committee had agreed that HDD was a preferred method. And I don't think we were really asked that question because the Conservation Commission, Allison and I, 2 members of the subcommittee, have
But didn't you? I'm sorry.
We've advocated for a different route, and that wouldn't necessarily require HDD. And we've been advocating for that for a long time. And I can see your confusion about to react to that, but we have been advocating for a different route for a long time, and we have never been heard. No one's ever responded about that route, except for Vermont Gas. It just says, you know what, that's not in the cards.
Okay, I have a question for you.
Yes.
What was the motion that was passed the meeting that I attended concerning HDD, which is horizontal drilling?
Well, I can read it.
Could you, Mike, clarify what meeting you attended?
Oh, I'm sorry. I attended a Conservation Commission meeting. Do you remember the date, Bob?
Yes.
Okay.
It was the 12th. Okay, this is the motion that we approved. The route east of the stream is still the route preferred by the Conservation Commission. HDD, as proposed, would be acceptable with strict performance measures, contingency plans, oversight, and bonding, and financial compensation commensurate with the value of Geprags to both VGS and the citizens of Hinesburg. Okay? Agreement terms to be developed with independent legal and technical expertise at this Conservation Commission's choosing, paid for by VGS. That was the motion. The first part of this motion is we prefer a different route. We prefer a route east of the stream.
Okay, I understand.
And just for some background to that, if in fact they do have to get a wetlands permit, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, but certainly if they're going to trench, they need a wetlands permit. And I have been assured that once in that 30-day comment period, they will consider alternative routes. So we will, if they're going to get a permit, our route will be considered by DEC.
Okay. This agreement says they will HDD. This amendment, amended agreement. I am speaking into it.
It's not loud, can't hear you.
Okay. This agreement is HDD.
As of yesterday, it was not exclusively HDD.
It is now.
The motion that I read, the motion that I read, bullet point number 2, Vermont Gas shall use, or that Michael read and I made the motion. Vermont Gas shall use horizontal drilling across Geprags Park to minimize wetland impacts.
Okay. And so was the corresponding language that gave them, the ability to choose a method. Is that removed from the documents?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, so I think that really what has transpired is that to avoid needing to get a wetlands permit, it is to Vermont Gas's advantage to do the HDD, therefore not opening up the opportunity for there to be an appeal or to comment on a wetlands permit. And once again, we are at a loss to really protect the park, and where most people think that the route through the mowed field and the long-term maintenance would be happening there is being thwarted. We aren't able to do that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. And so one more question for Vermont Gas. When you guys are, if you are executing HDD, so you will be exiting, where will you be exiting? Will it be in wetland?
We will plan to start the HED on the south side of Shelton Falls Road, working north, and we'll exit north of Geprags outside of all the wetlands.
Okay, somebody else? Yeah, come on down.
My name is Lynn Carno.
Yes.
I've been a resident of Hinesburg for 26 years. I think that Andrea brought up a very important point, that already things are happening that were agreed upon, that they would take care of our roads and follow our rules. And I'm wondering how we're expected to police them. Are we going to hire somebody to come in and police them and make sure that they're following the rules? And what kind of recourse do we have to make sure that they do follow the rules? And if they don't, how are they going to pay for it? And how much is it going to cost us to enforce them to make sure that they take care of things properly?
Number 18. Go ahead and answer it for them.
Well, it says on number 18 that I can read the whole thing if you'd like. During initial construction of the project, Vermont Gas will reimburse the... I'll start over. During initial construction of the project, Vermont Gas will reimburse the town for engaging an environmental inspector/observer at the town's choosing, suitably credentialed in environmental engineering, to witness and report on construction and observance with the conditions of the deed of easement. Reimbursement shall be up to $1,000 per week through the end of the construction and restoration period.
That's actually,
Okay, so-
just a second, let me clarify something. That's actually oversee the construction of the pipeline.
Could you speak more clearly, Mike? I
I'm trying.
really can't understand you.
My bad. That's actually to oversee the construction, to represent our town during the drilling. The road part is actually, to be honest, I think we have to do a better job as a town and hold them more accountable. I think that's, can you?
Yeah, I just went back and we were talking about this a little bit with the chief. Generally, the overweight vehicle enforcement at this point is left up to the Department of Motor Vehicles. They have the equipment, the training. So some of it is dependent on having a DMV officer in town while an overloaded vehicle is actively on a road that's posted for a lesser weight limit. there were rolling conversations throughout the winter about every time we were told this will be the last time, and then you're on the phone and you're saying, well, I'm watching an overweight truck roll by right now. So some of that was to focus on, okay, once the road is fully beat up and needs to be restored, get us a list, and we'll and help you restore it to its pre-construction condition. So those are the conversations that have happened. Those are the challenges with enforcement. We're moving toward overweight enforcement. There's some equipment that we need to pick up for that. So those are just some of those pieces. We were moving that way prior to this. We just weren't necessarily equipped for this winter.
And that's my point, is that you're not equipped, and that it's very important that we become equipped, and I want to know who's going to pay for that. Is that coming out of my taxes, or is the gas company going to pay for someone here in Hinesburg to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing? Okay. And then I just want to make one more comment, please.
Sure.
There was a study done where a company was sent into a forest and they deforested a piece of property. And they promised to put everything back, and visually it looked just fine. But they brought in an audio expert, and the audio never measured up to what it was before. So when you go into a wetlands, when you go into a park, you might be able to visually bring it back to what it was before. But if you bring in an audio expert, the animals aren't going to be there. The sounds that were there before, they're never going to come back.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you, Lynn. Richard?
Richard Watson, a member of the Town Energy Committee, which is taking a position against the pipeline. Richard Watts, a member of the Town Energy Committee, which, as you know, is taking a position against the pipeline. I want to first thank the Selectboard for a really difficult process here and appreciate the transparency that you are showing to have these discussions in such a public way. So this is something that the Public Service Board is not going to do in a couple of weeks. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
And, these are difficult things, and we have different opinions on them. But I want to just say a couple of things. That watching this, there's 6, volunteers, basically, citizens here, and there are at least that many people here from Vermont Gas. So the resources in this, controversial decision that you're having to make aren't quite equal. And so I'm thinking, if you haven't already, you might consider tabling this measure, getting a council like the Will Dodge to advise the town on the best possible deal that you could get, or just wait a week or two, and I bet the dollar amount would increase. This is such an important decision, and it's so important for Vermont Gas. As they said publicly, there's 163 parcels, 162 are agreed upon. So I'm just thinking, you're citizens, you're part-time, we have some professional counsel, but to the extent you can, get the best possible advice to get the best possible deal if we're going to go down that route. So thanks.
Thank you. And then I'll let the gentleman back, but that's okay. My bad.
I'm Bobby Carnwell.
Bobby? Okay.
Carnwell.
Okay.
And I'm here from Cornwall.
Cornwall, okay.
And as you know, we have experience with Vermont Gas, but I didn't come to talk about that except to say that you folks, I have my respect, and I know it's a really thorny issue with lots of complications, so I appreciate what you're doing with figuring it all out. But I am here because this is setting a precedent. I'm on the Cornwall Planning Commission. We work closely with the Conservation Commission. We regret that we have no public lands in Cornwall whatsoever. No place where you can take a walk in nature with your family without trespassing.
We would love to have land donated to the town for conservation and public use. We are afraid of the precedent this would set. We are afraid that by compromising the intent of the benefactor, Vermonters will be fearful that their land will be ransomed for use as an energy corridor or anything else that's lucrative. And potential benefactors would be reluctant to entrust their land to the care and stewardship of any town. Please, as previous speaker said, take your time. Don't be rushed into anything. This could have unintended consequences for a long time.
Okay, thank you. So just a second.
Good evening.
Just a
My name
second.
is Bob Davis.
Bob Davis, go ahead.
I'm a resident of the town since 1996. Horizontal drilling is probably about the best way to do this. I have many years of experience as a zoning administrator, code enforcement officer.
Okay.
But the thing is, you're going through wetlands, and this will affect the wetlands. They have to, by necessity, drill a larger hole. So if you came back in 6 months, even though the vegetation, you will find the ground is settled down around the pipe. It's only 3 feet deep. So that is subject to a heavy rain washout, and you, in effect, would have a mini riverbed right above it. So what provision is going to be made within these legal documents that you're signing? Where is the soil coming from that Vermont Gas will put there? Will it be wetland soil that is native to wetlands? Will it be compacted? Will it be maintained so that it is not a sluice way, shall we say? It will settle down around the pipe. They cannot get a pipe through the ground unless it's in stone, the exact dimension of the pipe. It's a bigger hole, so it does settle down around it. And in the future, what if there is a leak within the pipe? What provisions are going to be in your contract that they don't dig up the park again sometime in the future if perish the thought there is a leak there? So it's just a couple of things I wanted to point out that for the protection of the town and the pond, that could be very important down the road.
Tom, do you want to comment on that? Or, yeah. So let's have a conversation without the applause either way. I'd like to get through this in a respectful manner and I would prefer to do it that way, if we could, please. Thank you. Go ahead, John.
Thank you. This line is a transmission pipeline, so the HED, as I mentioned earlier, will enter in at the south side of the Shelburne Falls Road, and it will actually go down as it's traveling through the park. It'll be somewhere between 30 and 50 feet deep, and then obviously on the other side it has to come out, so it'll come up kind of shallow. So at that depth, we do not see settling. The pipe
John,
is...
You're speaking too quickly, and we can't hear you.
Sorry.
John, you need to just move a little closer to the mic.
All right.
You're probably the only person that has to bend down to the mic.
Hold it,
So,
that's easier.
I'll slow down and start over. So the drill will start out on the south side of Shelburne Falls Road. And obviously as it's going in, it will be shallow. It will travel very quickly down, and it'll be between 30 and 50 feet below the surface as it's traveling through the park, and then it'll rise up as it comes out on the north side.
How is it checked? Or if there's a problem? I know there's things in place, if you want to talk about that, about dealing with that, if you can.
Yeah, so when there's a number of tests that are done just to check the integrity, as we talked about earlier, as it goes in. We also have followed an integrity management plan that's monitored through PHMSA, a federal agency that requires us to do testing, to look at cathodic protection, to monitor the pipeline. And we have our original one that was put in 1965, and it is very sound. We have I can't remember the last time that we had any issue with it. So we monitor, again, we have federal and state agencies that monitor our operations.
Okay. So I just want to add one thing, and I'm looking over at Trevor, so I don't want to get Trevor in trouble. But one of the things that's in the stipulations is that if they have to go on to the park, they're to contact the town administrator who is to work with the Conservation Commission. And the only reason why is to contact the town administrator first is because the Conservation Commission volunteers and we want somebody, just a go-to person, but it's very clear that they are part of the discussion if you were to go on to the park. So that's just an addition to the discussion. Somebody else? Bill?
Bill Marks, Hinesburg Conservation Commission, since 1990, I think. As you know, the Conservation Commission has been very troubled by the process of negotiation, discussion, information sharing in these subcommittee meetings. And we have decided that because the Selectboard is a little bit set back on its heels, BGS's proposed stipulations, that we would like to present our own stipulation or outline for a stipulation that we will lay some discussion on. And I yield the floor to Bob Hines, who is more prepared to give you the outline. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to read this. It's not that long. We encourage the Select Board, we the Conservation Commission encourage the Select Board to submit the following counter proposal to Vermont Gas in consideration of easement through the Geprags Park. The easement will follow a course that starts west, running north to south, west of the stream, and crosses to the east of the stream approximately 500 feet south of the northern boundary, and proceeds east of the stream to the southern boundary of the park. We believe this route is best for meeting the interests of all parties involved. This route will avoid the vast majority of wetland habitat in the park, leave healthy native vegetation intact, vegetation that is used by a multitude of species, including golden-winged warbler, avoid much of the sensitive and challenging erosion protection and sediment control areas that will be encountered in the west corridor, include the need for ambitious planting plan that will be required by constructing in the west corridor, require only modest course change that, based on Vermont Gas testimony, will not be difficult to execute. It allows Vermont Gas to connect to the existing termini at both the south and north of the park, and it limits co-location conflicts. Over the life of the easement, it will keep most of the utilities adjacent in a single corridor, greatly facilitate the maintenance of the mode 20-foot corridor over the pipeline, provide much easier access for Vermont Gas for all maintenance and repair activities over the life of the pipeline. In exchange for the easement, we recommend Select Board seek monetary compensation from Vermont Gas to the town of Hinesburg, a sum not less than $1 million. VGS will be responsible for the town's expense to cover legal and technical expertise required to develop all terms of the agreement, and all terms will be contained in a written stipulation, deed of easement, and any other documents required to ensure enforceability. Thank you.
Okay, so just a clarification.
Yes.
At what meeting? Sorry, guys. Clarification. At what meeting did you vote on this proposal from the Conservation Commission? Is that better?
This proposal reflects all the terms in our motion from July 12th.
That's not what I heard on July 12th, to be honest.
Well, which part?
Well, you read a motion.
I mean, we talked about the course running at different courses.
So you voted on a motion July 12th that talks about horizontal drilling through the meadow. Mm-hmm. That's a lot different to me, basically. And so if you want to make that recommendation, that's fine. It can come from you and Bill, but I don't know. I don't know if you should do that to the Conservation Commission.
The opening line in the motion is we prefer a different route. And this is the route that we prefer. We have always, we've never wanted the west corridor.
Okay, let's keep going. That's just me.
Okay. Anyhow, it's there. It's there for consideration. It's there for you guys to do with it what you want.
Okay. Thank you.
Just ask a clarifying
Sure.
question. Just a clarification, so you're proposing a route more to the east. Is that with HDD or without HDD?
It does not have to be with HDD because it will be primarily, it starts west and will be out of wetlands. It will cut across the stream as it would at the southern terminus if it was trench. And it will, the vast majority will be in the mowed fields, which will be, yes, it's wetland soils. And one of the things that happens in this assessment is they look at the square foot of wetlands. And the thing about our wetlands are not two-dimensional. They're three-dimensional. They're not little blobs on the map. They have structure to them. The wetlands west of the stream have higher functions and values. And that has never been accounted for in any of the analysis of routes, any of the route selection analysis. It's only about square foot of wetlands. It's not about functions and values of the wetlands. And functions and values are something that DEC will consider.
Okay. Thanks, Bob. Yes, right here. Come on.
I'm Theodora Ward, a resident of Hinesburg. First, I just want to make a little comment about microphones. If you want to be heard, back your mouth right up to it. This doesn't
Yes,
work.
ma'am.
Okay?
I got trained 2 weeks ago. So
I wanted to start by addressing number 10 on the agreement. There is a sentence in there that says HDD has potential to reduce vegetative disruption. So we don't even know if HDD is really better. It has the potential. So my concern is, I've spent untold hours reading this document. I'm not a lawyer. This is really hard to do. It's taken lots of time to do this. And I find this document is completely peppered with things like potential, efficiency, as it looks, terms like that, which are not specific at all. This says HDD has the potential. We need some documentation. Is it really better? We don't know. And there's so many things in this agreement that we don't know. I find it really frightening. And I want to reiterate what several people have said. We need an attorney who is versed in this kind of agreement and settlement. We need somebody who knows about pipelines and law. And I kind of think about it as like we have an attorney, but he's not this attorney. And it would be like saying, I have cancer, so I'll go see my GP. My GP would send me immediately to an oncologist. We need an oncologist here. This is really serious, and it's going to have ramifications for 100 years. And we're the people that are responsible. That's a huge responsibility. It's really heavy. So we really need someone to help us and guide us, because this is really loose. There's too many ifs or maybes in it. Thank you.
Thank you. Rachel?
All right. This is the microphone. There we go.
Rachel?
Hi.
Smoker, right?
Yes, that's right.
From Hinesburg?
That's right. I'm Rachel Smoker. I'm a resident of Hinesburg, and we've had a lot of communications over time, and I do appreciate the select board's efforts. This has been very difficult, but believe me, it's definitely worth the trouble that you're going to come to a good decision about this. I have a couple of points that I want to make. One of them is, has the select board requested all of the records and all of the information about how horizontal drilling has worked out elsewhere where it's been done along this project? Because I know that there have been some serious problems, for example, in the Colchester Sand Plain,
and that it would be very worthwhile looking at every single point, every place where HDD has been done to date, how did it go, and what happened. I'm also curious to know from Vermont Gas what the role of ECI is. They were doing their horizontal drilling for them before, and I understood that they had a falling out of some sort and had hired on a new contractor to do their horizontal drilling, but I still think ECI is involved in some way, and I'd like very specific clarification about what ECI's role is. The other thing I'm wondering about, this will be a very quick point, is just why don't we just postpone these hearings? We're not ready for this, and we're being rushed along on VGS's time frame and not on our own time frame. The other issue that I want to raise is that I've been doing some reading, including an industry report from 2015 that talks about the risks of co-locating electric wires with steel pipelines running underneath them, which causes, and you've seen signs around that say induced voltage, and this is what this has to do with, AC interference between the lines and the pipeline underneath, and also lightning strikes apparently are a real risk. And what I understand about that, what this report says, is that any co-location of electric wires with pipeline of a distance greater than 5,000 feet is considered a high risk for corrosion in the pipeline, which is a major factor in pipeline failures that have been happening around the place. So my question is the issue is that Hinesburg, as far as I can tell, is hosting 6 miles continuously, okay? 5,000 feet is less than a mile. We have 6 miles of co-located electric wire pipeline in the town of Hinesburg. And my question is, first of all, what measures are being taken? Second of all, what standards are being met? Third of all, how will HDD affect that? Fourth of all, is that concern about co-location in Hinesburg part of the reason why we simply cannot get a change in route discussed on this? They insist on keeping the same route. The Selectboard, the Conservation Commission has been asking for a different route for all eternity. Since 2012 when this conversation first started. This is never really, VGS keeps insisting that this is where they have to put the pipeline. So I'm just curious if we could just address those 10 or 20 questions.
So Rachel, before you go, don't shoot me. I missed 2 of your 4 questions. You talked about standards, co-location. What were the other 2? I'm sorry.
Well, I asked why we don't just postpone the hearings.
Okay.
I asked about all the information around HDD and the relationship with ECI.
Got that one.
And I asked a series of questions having to do with the concerns about co-location in Hinesburg, given that we have 6 miles of co-location as far as I can tell.
Okay.
Although I never know whether I'm looking at the most recent updated maps.
Thank you. Do you want to talk about the safety standards?
Sure. So I'll try to go through the first question, I believe, was with the drilling contractors, and we did utilize ECI last year. We have a large volume of drills this year. We went to a new contractor. You might have seen the trucks running around here, Michael's. The question on co-locating is absolutely true. There is, when you co-locate pipelines in electric corridors, you have what's called reduced voltage. And we do have to manage that, and that's why you see the signs out there. Sorry.
Pull it out and hold it.
All right.
Like an ice cream cone.
Sorry, this is going to be really cute.
And you know, you could.
Okay. I have. Do you want it?
Whichever you're most comfortable with, John.
Okay. So induced voltage, it does occur in co-located pipelines in electric corridors, and the signs that are out there is just to make people aware that that is out there. There are measures that are in place to protect the workers. As is put in the ground, there's a system called AC mitigation, and it's designed by engineers and approved by the state that actually mitigates the AC current that is generated by the electromagnetic field. Again, these are designed by engineers, approved by the state, and it is all along the corridor to protect the pipeline to make sure it does not have corrosive effects that could happen.
Could I ask you, what department in the state is qualified to do this kind of analysis?
This goes through the CPG process. The Department of Public Service has a gas engineer, and they also hired a third-party engineer who reviewed all of the plans for the project.
So the Public Service Board or the Public Service Department?
Public Service Department.
Someone else? Yes, come on in.
Hi, I'm Laura Wisniewski. I've been living in Hinesburg for 34 years.
Closer, like that?
Yes. All right,
Take
so-
it out of your hand. Take it out of your hand. Put it,
Okay.
yes.
Sing a
That's
little,
what
sing a
we're-
little to
outside.
you. I have first a couple of questions. Is it true that with this agreement that Vermont Gas Company can sell their easement to another energy company?
Oh, yes.
I'm asking.
Yes, yes. Oh, I thought you were going to ask all the questions at once.
No, one at a time.
Okay.
So they can.
Yeah.
So even if we were to have confidence in the current owner of that easement, we have no way to control the next energy company that might potentially own that easement. Is that correct?
It's, the agreement still stands, and it's through the Public Service Board, right?
No, because that's the document.
But
Right. But since it's already been pointed
just a
out.
minute, let us answer it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The documents reference all successors assigns. I mean, they have that standard language that anticipates some kind of change in ownership or corporate structure. And so those references are peppered throughout. It still ties everything, whoever the owner would have to comply with all of the conditions, both of the deed of easement, the stipulated agreement, and anything in docket 7970, which is the certificate of public good for the transmission of natural gas. So those are the factors those are the parameters essentially under which.
Right, but that would have covered all of these sort of question marks that have been raised tonight. I have another question. I hope it's not wasting your time because maybe everyone knows this. Is it true that the reason that we're talking about the park is because the gas company, Vermont Gas, has claimed eminent domain? Is that true? So my question is, why is the public good of the park being trumped by Vermont Gas Company? Because eminent domains can only be used on the public, if I understand, can only be used for land that's been already stipulated for the public good if their public good trumps the existing public good. So I'm just wondering why our public park, which is a statement of our town, saying we're yielding our public use, our public ownership to Vermont Gas. So that's confusing.
So, I'll try to answer this.
Okay.
So, for this pipeline, the Public Service Board has given the certificate of public good. It's up to Vermont Gas to negotiate with all of the landowners to get the easements. If they do not get easements, they can go through eminent domain to get the easement. Because this is a public park, I think the legal decision was made that even if, we said we want $5 million and Vermont Gas said yes, it doesn't matter. They have to go through eminent domain because it's public land.
No.
So,
Sorry.
So even if we come up with an agreement, they're going to bring this to the eminent domain hearing and say, we want to move forward with this, and we have an agreement in place. I'll let you go, Andrea.
I think what is more important is one is it's public land. There are several statutes in Vermont that deal with how the town is supposed to dispose of public property. But what has brought the town to this position is the fact that there was a covenant put on this land when it was given to the town that said it should be used for recreation or educational purposes. And so in order to not violate that covenant, which anybody who donates land or even when you sell land, you can put covenants on it that restricts the use. So the intended use here was for education or recreation. Because of that covenant, the select board cannot violate that covenant, and is then the remedy is to use eminent domain. The Public Service Board has given Vermont Gas, a private corporation, the rights that are usually held for public entities like a town when we call eminent domain for expanding a bridge or building a road or a sidewalk, or the state, are usually the ones that claim that there is a greater public good being served by using eminent domain. Here we have Vermont Gas, a private company, being granted the right to use eminent domain by the Public Service Board.
Thank you. I know the Vermont Supreme Court in the past has ruled in favor of the original public use. So I guess I'd just like to ask you to step back. I know we're talking about the specifics as if we were about to go ahead with this, but to me the fundamental issue that Andrea put forth is so important, and it's so important to our town and even our who are we? That I'd like to encourage, first of all, to put the brakes on the decision tonight, and also to really think about whether that makes any sense for a private corporation to be observing eminent domain.
Thank you. Somebody else? Yes. Oh, you're going to have to pick up the microphone too?
Feeling. Okay, yes, I live in Hinesburg. About the covenant for the public park, we don't know what they would think of this. We don't know what the people who donated this land would think of this. It's really not going to change the use of the park. It's going to have minimal impact on the use of the park. Where the pipeline is going is all poison parsnip. Nobody's walking through it. Yes, we have to protect the wetlands. Agreed. Horizontal drilling will help with that. The fact that we're going to get money, we know, one thing we do know is that the donors value recreational use for the town. We take that money and we put it into recreational use, we're actually enhancing their donation, because the change to the park is really not going to change its recreational use. Thanks.
Thank you.
My name is Lee Bast. I was born here and spent my whole life, pretty much my whole life here. And I just wanted to first comment that I think that there's been plenty of talks about getting money for this park and for this project. But I think that the Select Board is correct to focus that the most important thing should be the protection of the land, even at the expense of an absolute amount of money. So going as deep as possible, assurances that any leaks can preferably be fixed without giving up the park. To the extent that that requires sacrificing a certain amount of upfront payment, I think that's well worth it. Preserving the park should be the most important thing. And as well as all the concerns about this, I think it's worth thinking about our responsibility as Vermonters. Natural gas is much more environmentally friendly than a lot of other fuels. It's certainly not perfect, it's not solar, but it's safer. The expansions up towards Texas Hill Road and such that are protected are value to Hinesburg as well, and to future generations. And that should also be in people's minds, as well as protecting the parkland itself and reinvesting anything we get from it and making the town a better place. And for future generations as well. I hope to raise kids here someday myself and have to take them to the park.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Just a minute.
It's not natural gas.
Okay, sit down. So remember, we're not supposed to outburst, we're supposed to be respectful. Okay. This gentleman over here in the green shirt.
Hi, my name is Larry. I live here in Hinesburg. And my wife and I, we like to park. We like to go into the park. We walk around in the park. I want to ask folks from Vermont Gas, as we think about this kind of thing, why do we think about these things? There's always potential risk. And when we think about risk, there's always the worst case scenario of what could happen. What I'd like to know from you is what would be the worst case scenario that could happen in our park? And then I'd like to know from the select board, do you feel that that is worth the risk?
So, to answer the question of what's the worst case scenario, is we look at the park and using the HED technique to install the pipeline would be that we would have to make a repair to the pipeline, and we would have to excavate an area around, get down to the pipe, repair it, and then return the park to its original condition. In that area, we have to excavate.
Leave the sign. People can't see behind you.
Okay.
You need to come up and use the microphone, please.
Yep, sure. Just a note.
It's fine.
I'm Lawrence Shelton, resident of Hinesburg. Got a couple of questions, one for the select board and one for VGS. I brought this sign up because I also have a couple of comments. This sign says respect the covenant. The fellow just said something about enhancing it. What Geprags put in there and in the deed said it shall be used only as a public park, school, or for public, recreational, or educational purposes. The town of Hinesburg shall properly maintain and care for the property. So that's a comment to one commenter. And the comment to the man about the worst case scenario being we have to go back and repair it. There's a quarter-mile crater just outside of Pittsburgh where corrosion of the pipeline blew up and destroyed lots of stuff. There have been a lot of pipeline explosions from corrosion just this year. So I submit to you that the worst case scenario is not that they have to go back into some repair work. Okay, so my question for the select board is that in the process of this, I've encountered a lot of really smart, savvy people. I've heard it suggested before that you guys hire an attorney. Just tonight, I'm really upset here. Sorry for shaking.
No problem. Take your time.
We heard VGS tonight say that they'll do HDD, and that means they don't even have to get a wetlands permit. I would rather propose to the town that a proper agreement would include you guys hiring a hydrologist, because a big part of this three-dimensional thing that the Conservation Commission talked about is that groundwater is affected beneath the surface, and HDD can change the course of groundwater and drain the wetlands and destroy the wetland. Okay. Okay, so shall I wait for you to answer that question before I ask a question to VGS?
Go ahead and ask your question to VGS.
Okay, my question to VGS. The Conservation Commission has been asking for a long time can change the route and just simply go through the meadow. Why not do that?
Give it a shot? Yeah.
We've looked at the route that the Conservation Commission has proposed, the shrines, and it involves obviously kind of zigzagging through the park. Obviously, it faces out of the gate. We generally install these transmission lines on a fairly straight line, and zigzagging is a challenge. We try to build something of this length. So that's the first kind of challenge we have for that. But more importantly, our analysis of the wetlands that we impacted on that other route actually show more wetlands will be impacted. And specifically, now that we're talking about HDDing, the Conservation Commission was fine with us open trenching that other route. Our analysis is obviously that the HDD on the current route has no impact to the wetlands, so there's no need to consider that other route, basically. And obviously, a new route is a huge time delay for us, so that's another reason why we're not interested in going down that path.
So Lawrence, to answer your question about the board, I think at the very end we'll all talk about how we feel about things, and hopefully they can answer it that way rather than answer individual questions from everybody one at a time. So that's what we're going to do, I think. Go ahead, come on up. Just take it out if you need to. It's fine.
I'm Janice Nadler, I live in Hinesburg. I've been to several meetings, and there have been a lot more meetings, a lot more subcommittee meetings, and this is a really important issue to the town. So my question to the select board is, why not just have a vote? Why not have the townspeople speak? Because this depends on people showing up. There are people who feel very passionately about it. Maybe the rest of the community feels okay, but we don't know. It's certain number of individuals coming to every meeting. Why not have a vote? Because all of these estimates, analyses, we really don't know what's going to happen. We hope things won't happen, but we really don't know. So there are consequences long term. So I think it's important enough to have a voice, and if you're not open to having a vote, how do you know you're representing the town? Other than having been voted in, how do you know what people want or what they think or how they feel about this? Thanks.
I'll take a crack at answering that. I think that in the election process, we are kind of selected to make these decisions. And it's not as though we live in a bubble. We float around the community and we listen to people all the time. Phone calls, emails, meetings. So I do feel as though we're equipped. I believe we were elected for a reason. And I think this is the reason to do. Not that a vote's not a good idea, but I do think we were elected to make these decisions and take feedback from the residents.
Oh, Adrian.
Yeah, I would like to offer that there in fact are 2 statutes on Vermont books that specifically deal with how the town disposes of public property. One of which says that when the town is going to dispose of, basically deal with the property, change its use, sell it, put an easement on it, there is an opportunity for voters when we notice that, and that's what has happened with the police station, that a group of citizens can get a petition together and ask for there to be a town-wide vote. There is a second law on the books that says when the town is going to do something with a public park, public land, a park, there should be a vote at the annual town meeting. Our legal counsel has advised us that we don't have to pay attention to those laws. I personally think that having an annual vote to resolve this, and we would be voting on a stipulation that Vermont Gas would put forward. We could all understand what it is, have a vote, move ahead. And then eminent domain would happen because it's because of the covenant, but it would be moving ahead because that's the wishes of the town, and we're following what's on the books for Vermont law.
Can I just maybe add?
You want to add something?
I think the opinion we received both from the town attorney, from an outside attorney experienced in municipal law, is that with this being an eminent domain proceeding, it's not a conveyance in the sense envisioned in those sections of statute. It's a taking through this other process. So therefore, 1061 in particular is the one that we used in the police station process, where we were selling a building, and a piece of land that fell under the spectrum of that section of statute. So we had to warn it. There was an appeal period where somebody could file for a vote whether or not to continue through with that. Because these are eminent domain proceedings, that's kind of the distinction in terms of why they aren't subject to those sections of statute where a voluntary conveyance may be.
George, I don't know who George is, but Tom just told me George. Come on up to the microphone. I didn't say that, George.
Hi, I'm George Leclerc. I've been in Hinesburg for 69 years. I heard somebody saying about the animal life and stuff, but we had a 500-acre farm. There's over 40 houses on there. The wildlife is kept back. When they dig up to put a new house, it looked terrible. A lot of people say, oh my God, it's done over with. Beautiful houses. I've also talked to some farmers over here that Michaels have gone through. I've talked to some of them. They're happy with what they've done. They've done a beautiful job. Of course, the grasses are going to grow overnight, but when it gets done, it's going to look good. I knew the Geprags personally, Dora, Frank, and Dorothy.
Helen.
And Helen, I'm sorry. And if they were here today, I know the way they were, they probably would say this is going to be better than town for the kids, because they love kids. Yes, there can be a problem, but walking across the road can be a problem. So it's no different. But if they keep doing what they're doing right now, I don't see anything wrong with it. They're putting some money on the table. We can use that money for registration for other stuff. Lake Iroquois, right now we can't swim, we can't do nothing there. They can do something with the weeds and stuff that are growing, like Lake Dunmore did. Lake Dunmore did it, and the people that are stacked, it's great. We can use some of that money for that, and like somebody else said, for the kids, we can do something with the park. Where the pipeline is going, I know that area. I've walked it and walked it and walked it. It's just sitting there. So let's do something with it. It's going to be fine. I mean, we can say that, and you people all have your ideas. We have ours. Everybody's entitled to an opinion. I still say if somebody's going to lay money on the table so we can do something with it, and from what I've seen in the back, all the way up the golf course, looking at the golf course where they went across the road, yes, it was a mess. It was really bad. Look at it now. There's virtually nothing wrong with it. And another season, they're not going to know that pipeline's in there.
Thank you, George. So before we keep going here, it's 8:37. I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll take another 10 minutes of discussion from the audience, and then have the board give some final thoughts, and then we'll vote. Is that okay? So, Bob, come on up.
My name is Bob Peoples, Hinesburg resident. I had a question to Vermont Gas about this extension of the Richmond Road. Still confused about that. I think most of the town people are, and then I can gather. Town Murphy sent me natural gas service to mobile homes and mobile home parks, just in the first part of July. And it says here, second paragraph, the first heading here, feasibility. The project must meet the feasibility requirements of Vermont Gas Line Extension Policy. Now, there's been so much back and forth with regard to this feasibility. I can remember a May 20th email to Ned Farquhar, from Ned Farquhar to Trevor, to Mike, to Renee, that stated Vermont Gas has determined that this project is feasible. I talked to Tom Murray after one of the meetings, and Tom said this agreement, this extension line is contingent on, this is what you told me, Tom.
I'll just keep,
This extension line is contingent on Vermont Gas reaching an agreement with the town. Okay, so that's, I know that's what Tom can. So anyway, what I'm saying is, I think when I read this document, this stipulation that the word feasibility was taken out.
Right.
So that conflicts with the mobile home policy of Vermont Gas. And as far as I know, and this is a question I have, I was told by Vermont Gas that the way that this would be determined would be that cards would be sent out to all potential hookups on the extension, and that anybody that expressed an interest in that would then be contacted by a salesperson from Vermont Gas. And at that time, all of the costs, the determinations that would have to be done, whether they would need new appliances to hook up or not, all of the costs at that point would be worked out by the sales rep from Vermont Gas, talking to any customer that expressed interest in that. That would not necessarily mean that they would need to sign a contract. But if they did sign a contract, then I think at that point, Vermont Gas would have a genuine hookup. Now, as far as I know, and I'll ask this question, I know Vermont Gas was up to the mobile homes yesterday or the day before, passing out leaflets, urging everybody to come and express their opinions. Fine. But as far as I know, to this day, no cards have been sent out by anybody from Vermont Gas to any of these folks, or maybe one or two or three. Ned Farquhar said, yes, some people have been contacted. As far as I know, no cards have been sent out. So as this goes, Vermont Gas is flying by the seat of their pants and saying that this project is feasible. Okay? And it just may not be feasible when the chips are all down on the table and we do find out how many people actually want to hook up or not hook up to gas. And there's a lot of education going on at this point in terms of helping these people to determine whether the heat pump, solar, or weatherization might be a much economical way to go rather than hooking up to natural gas and possibly having your rates go sky high when this pipeline goes online. So, question then, has anybody been contacted by cards at this point in time by Vermont Gas?
Let's let them answer. Just talk. Yeah.
Robert, I think you're confusing our normal sales and marketing process with what's in this agreement. This agreement has Vermont Gas building that extension. No questions asked, no conditions. We will build it. And that's what this agreement says, and we're looking forward to doing that, actually. It is a little lower density than we normally go to, but we are committing in this agreement to get it done. And we're confident that a lot of people will sign up for the service, and once we get this agreement, we'll send out the cards and all that stuff, but regardless of how many cards we get back, we're going to put that pipe in.
That's good. Okay, we have that commitment by Vermont Gas. They are building that extension line, or that distribution line, okay? Whether it's feasible or not.
We got it on TV.
Okay, I have one other question.
Okay.
I forgot that question. Give me a minute. I think Vermont Gas recently, it may have been in Middlebury, that they made a statement that they have changed their policy and they will now extend 200 feet free of charge. Is that correct? Is that correct?
Just step up and answer.
No, as far as I don't know that statement came from, our tariff with regard to extension, the 100-foot extension, that has not changed for many years now.
Okay. That was your question.
That was my question.
Thanks. Melanie, come on down. Get you.
Actually, I was at that meeting in Middlebury, Tom, and your representative said 200 feet, even 300 feet if you have a gas appliance. So I'm sorry, but either you gave information that was incorrect there and your policy hasn't changed, or your policy has changed and Hinesburg is being offered less. I don't know which it is.
Okay.
Those aren't the comments that I intended to make. Andrea brought up a point about whether or not there should be a fine if something goes wrong. I can tell you that some sunflowers were cut down just last week. I would say that if I were a golden wing warbler, to me the worst case scenario would be that my tree got cut down and Vermont Gas says, whoops, we'll apply for a takings permit. I think the town ought to get some compensation for its park. It's not a state park. Any fines that Vermont Gas would pay would go to A&R. Why should A&R get those fines and you not get them? The second point that I wanted to make is that I wonder whether your attorney has gone through clause by clause the points where deferral is being given to the Public Service Board or the Department of Public Service to resolve issues. This is a property deed. This is an easement that runs with the land and is going to go on forever. I don't understand why you're bringing the PSB into any issues over which it does not have authority. But if you choose to do that, I would like to recommend, and I hope Vermont Gas will agree, that should the Public Service Board close any hearing or proceeding related to a dispute you get into with Vermont Gas, that you all stipulate that the default is that it goes to the courts, where we all know it will be open and where the public can participate. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Mr. Cox.
Hi, my name is Frank Koss. I'm a newcomer to Hinesburg, 10 years. I had the opportunity to speak at the subcommittee yesterday, and one of the things that I mentioned is this process is going through eminent domain. If we do not give Vermont Gas an agreement, then it's going to depend on a judge to make that decision on whether they can do it. One of the things that has been mentioned is taking our park. They're not taking our park. They're putting a pipeline underneath it. They've agreed now to horizontal directional drilling, which is, we've got to look at what is a judge going to consider fair. They've worked with us. They've done what they can do. Are they going to side with us that it's a park and rule against them? To be honest with you, I don't think so. I think they've gone out of the way to do what they can do. The second thing I want to mention that I wasn't going to say anything about, I'm a little embarrassed right now. I sat here and read since they started this project about cost overruns on how the evil Vermont Gas is costing all this money in that. Listen to what we're doing here tonight. Okay, we started with $75,000, which God love everybody that decided that it wasn't a good agreement. Right now we're at $250,000 in directional drilling. That's not enough. We need $500,000, $500,000. That's not good enough. We need $1 million. I'm embarrassed that this is going to be streamed out and people are going to look at this town. How greedy can we get? Let's set an amount that if you don't want the pipeline, then we don't do the pipeline. Don't set an amount that is so unreasonable that Vermont Gas is just going to say no. I'm sorry, I think $250,000 was a fair offer considering the horizontal drilling. Thank you.
All right, so Well, it's not 9:45. That's not 8:45. It's 8:50. I'm going to have 2 more speakers, and one of those is Peter.
Thank you. Peter from Hinesburg. 3 things that I'm thinking about. The first, and I just have to say this, is how greedy we can get is by trading this park for money. That's how greedy we can get. Secondly, if I heard correctly, it seems like the worst case scenario was the fact that there would be something going on with the pipe and they'd have to dig down to fix it. And I just can't quite imagine digging 50 feet down to find that pipe and fix it. But maybe I misunderstood that they have some other magic other than going down and finding it. And the third thing, which is rather a minor detail, but it's always been my understanding that damage to roads and overweight vehicles things is really an invisible problem. It isn't the fact that you see it, it's the fact that you've changed the soil colloids, it's the fact that you've screwed up the fabric underneath. All sorts of little things go wrong, which you're not going to see right away. No, I'm not sure about this, but this is the kind of detail you guys should know before you just pass these things and say, well, hell, they're going to take a picture of it. It may not show what's happened, and there may be a whole lot of money that we put in all the road to fabric that we don't know about later. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. Go ahead, Don, and I'll add one more after this, actually. It wasn't.
Thank you. I'm Don Mendel. I'm the president of Vermont Gas. I want to thank the select board. I want to thank the entire town for all the hard work that's gone into this over a long time. We've been at this for a long time, and we just want to say we appreciate all the hard work, all the thinking, and all the dialogue that's gone on here. I know this hasn't been easy, and we appreciate that. We hope that we can be part of a community. You know, one of the wonderful things about Vermont is that we support each other, and as communities, we support each other as communities as well. Our project, which has been under review now for many years, is intended to bring choice and opportunity to Addison County. It's the choice and opportunity that we've been able to bring to so many in Hinesburg over the past several years, as serving so many of your neighbors here. We hope with this agreement that we'll be able to serve many more and bring the choice of natural gas service to those folks. We're not making anybody do anything with respect to what kind of fuel they choose. This is a choice. It's our goal to get this project done, and yes, this is the last piece of the puzzle, and it's tough. It's so important that we solve it, and that we move on, and we complete this project so that we can bring choice and opportunity to Addison County, so that we can be good stewards in this community, and so that we can serve our customers ably. So thank you for your participation. Thank you to the Selectboard for all the hard work on behalf of all 140 folks at Vermont Gas, Vermonters who come to work and work hard every day. Thank you.
Chuck hasn't spoken yet, so he's the last speaker.
No one before me spoken yet.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Chuck Reese. I am Hinesburg resident, and I'm also on the Energy Committee for the town. I had to respond to this concept of choice, and this idea of choice is between gas and oil, basically, or LP gas. What we're not really getting is that there are some other alternatives, and as a matter of fact, the state is going to require us to look at alternatives starting next year. The Renewable Energy Standards Act is going to require the utilities to incorporate thermal energy in their Tier 3 effort to remove people from fossil fuel. So So our goal as a state is to get to 90% renewable energy by 2050. That process is starting next year. So to present us a choice of natural gas or oil is not the full equation. We have looked at bringing alternatives up to the trail of the mobile home park, and I would like the board to think about giving information that includes the choice of shifting to renewables, to heat pumps, and to efficiency. Our initial data looking at that, because we have actually done some in Mountain View Mobile Home Park, shows that we can make that transition. So as we hand out cards to say, here's your choice, we're not giving them the full picture of the choice of perhaps an alternative that may be quite a bit less money for them when you look at the long picture. Vermont Gas is not going to guarantee their rates for 20 years. I will guarantee rates if you put solar and heat pumps in for over 20 years. And I think that with the hookup costs and everything else and the possibility of doing financing through all the state incentive programs now, those two numbers look very close. If you go to natural gas or switch to alternatives, that's the choice we should really be looking at. So as we think about this, and you're voting tonight, are we giving up something very valuable as our park and putting restrictions on our park for something that is not really a choice that's fully blown out or exposed, or actually everybody has a full handle on what the real choice is? I think it's a false choice, actually. Thanks.
Okay, I'm being told from the right side.
He couldn't see you back there.
Sorry, and I apologize for not seeing you. But
thank you.
You've got to have a kid on the right side of the table.
Thank you. I no longer live in the area, and so I was waiting till other people had spoken, but I grew up in Richmond, just a few miles away. My name is Shana Casper, and I work with Toxics Action Center. We work side by side with community groups to clean up and prevent pollution throughout New England. And this is more than that now because it's personal, because I grew up here and I'm hoping this is my home. And VCAS knows that this is the last puzzle piece. I'm sorry?
I didn't mean to interrupt you. Remind me who you're with again?
Toxics Action Center. We're just a nonprofit that does side-by-side community organizing work.
Okay.
The cost of this pipeline is going up and up, as we know. Vermont has a goal of getting to 90% renewable energy, and we all know that this pipeline is not in with that goal and that commitment. And it's something that I take pretty seriously, because every year of my life has been a year above average global temperatures, and this pipeline is not moving forward in the right direction there. Global warming is here. We're here for Irene. This past winter also showed us that, and it's irresponsible to have this pipeline come through. And we know that gas is 86 to 105 times as more potent a climate pollutant than carbon. Released even in small amounts, even a small leak has huge impacts on the climate. And that there's no way that this pipeline is in any way in our best interest, or the public good, as they say. This will have long impacts, generational impacts, and I'm hoping, as I said, to have kids here, and that I hope my kid's future is worth more than $250,000, because that seems to be what's at the table right now. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yay.
Okay, so I'm going to close the audience part and ask the board for comments, and then we'll vote.
Can I say one?
I've closed it. Okay, so does anybody want to start? Okay, Tom?
So I first of all, I want to thank everybody for showing up at this meeting and every meeting. It's been a good dialogue, obviously contentious, but we appreciate the challenge. So I don't normally prepare a statement, but I did tonight because I think it warranted it. And we're here to consider three options, basically is what it boils down to with Vermont Gas's proposal. We could do nothing and allow the eminent domain process to go ahead. We could contest the eminent domain proceeding with a future that was uncertain and the cost to taxpayers uncertain as well. And the third choice, which we have chosen to pursue, is an agreement with Vermont Gas in exchange for not contesting the eminent domain proceeding. Such an agreement would need to garner those protections for Geprags Park that we have talked about tonight, including its natural resources and traditional uses. It must provide expanded service to the residents of Hinesburg. It must meet the intent of the covenant on Geprag property, and in addition, it must provide tangible benefits for the town. From the very beginning, this board knew that no matter what decision we made, not everyone would be happy, and that will most likely be the case. And the most challenging part of this decision is separating the question about the park from the much broader issue of fossil fuels. I think this board has been able to do that regardless of our personal opinions. Some time ago, it was decided by the board that the most logical course of action was to craft an agreement. And although we've gone back and forth as to the exact details of that agreement, the direction has never really changed. After all the input and the creation of the subcommittee, adjustments to the agreement and easement, it's time to make our choice. I am satisfied that Geprag Park will not suffer permanent damage. I believe the Geprag sisters would be elated to know that their donation to the town so many years ago could leverage even more benefits for Hinesburg today. And I'm optimistic that a number of our residents will see a real savings in their heating bills this winter and in the future. I'd like to thank everybody who's worked so hard to get us through this contentious issue, including the subcommittee, the town administrators. It has been difficult. It's a very difficult process for them, the Conservation Commission, and everybody else. I think we've done everything possible to address as many concerns as we could, and at the end of the day, there's still going to be disagreement about the outcome, but I'll be voting to approve the agreement tonight.
Somebody else want to speak?
Sure. These are things I've said in the past, and I'll say them again. I've said I'm personally against this pipeline. I've protested against pipelines. I've been arrested because I think this isn't the future, and it's the wrong direction for all the reasons. In this is a true conundrum, because it's my belief that this pipeline's going through no matter what Hinesburg decides, because it's at the Public Service Board is the authority. They've already approved this pipeline. So with that, and with my responsibility as a select board member, I feel that I'm forced to find the best decision for the town. And I appreciate what everyone has been bringing up, safety standards, etc. But in this case, you know, the town is being wagged by the dog, and no matter what we do, this pipeline is coming through. So that's just my belief.
This is a room full of diverse opinions. I'm sorry, Phil. This is a room full of diverse opinions. Let's let everybody say theirs. I'm sorry, Phil.
That's all right. You know, there are some court cases still in the process, so we'll see how that sugars out. I do believe that the HDD drilling should not be a negotiated item. As I've said before, that should be done to protect the land and not held out as a carrot for us. And I think that's all I've got to say. And I've already said I feel that the compensation where it is not nearly what the public park is worth.
You want to go next? Okay. You want to go?
No, Aaron can go.
I wanted to start by thanking everybody. When this process started for me officially, I was thrown into this and played quite a bit of catch up. And as you might recall, voted not in favor of going along with this. And the reasons I gave at the time was process. I thought the process hadn't fully played out the best that it could. And I also thought the language that we had in the deed, in the agreement, the stipulation wasn't where it could be. And to that, I want to thank the board members here for their help with getting us to this part. I want to thank town staff. I want to thank the Conservation Commission, and in particular the subcommittee. I want to thank everyone for being so incredibly engaged and passionate about this. This is unlike anything I've seen in a while. And we're actually quite lucky that we're in a packed room spending all of our evenings discussing this, because if these were decisions that just the five of us randomly made and no one showed up, which sometimes is the case on a lot of things that we talk about, it would be a sad state of a healthy community. And this is proof that we live in a very healthy community. But that community is a larger picture. And as a municipality, and in particular as this board, we have a very prescribed and narrow path that we have to run with regards to what our job is. And Phil spoke to that, certainly. If our opinions as a board was that this gas line is, if gas lines in particular were a bad thing and we should fight them, we're probably on the wrong board. We probably need to sit on the Public Service Board or in the Shumlin administration or wherever this idea came from and was okay. But at this level, our job is specific to making sure that the good of the town broadly is represented, and we can, and through this process that we've improved on over the last several months, get the best deal that we can. As you recall, it was $75,000, and it was some language that we didn't like, and it's now the proposal on the table that we're going to vote on is for $250,000. There's been a tremendous amount of input into that language, and there's been a whole different way to put in this pipeline. We're not digging a trench, we're doing the HDD, which, as the way I understand this and others, creates a lot of problems that were created are off the table. Maybe there's other problems on the table. And to that, I would say that there is no solution that will solve everybody's problem here. At some point, you need to make a decision and move from that decision. And tonight is that time to make that decision. And it's not going to please everybody. It may not even please me. But it's pretty clear that we need to make the decision and move on to some degree. There's a lot of work that is, in running a town, there's a lot of work that isn't getting done at the expense of continually working through this. And that's not a slam on the process or a one thing is more important than the other. It's just a reality of capacity, both in terms of people power to run the town and money. At some point we only have so much money, I suppose, unless everybody wants to pay a whole lot more in taxes. That's the only way we get money. So thank you for everybody for being a part of this. It's certainly been eye-opening for me, and I look forward to more, I suppose. Thank you.
Andrea, would you like to say something?
I think we all agree that it's been good to have this an open process, and it's been difficult, even though it has been a somewhat open process. I think a lot of information. It's not only the passion that has been brought forward, but a tremendous amount of research and information has been brought forward that has given the select board an opportunity to look at this more closely. I'm not sure that we have really fully availed ourselves of the most professional and best way of negotiating this agreement and understanding the long-term consequences of this. I find the short time frame that we have of the amendment coming forward at this meeting, that there was a subcommittee yesterday. I don't know that these ideas came forward from the subcommittee. I still feel like there's issues in the stipulation and this whole process that really gives up, the town is giving up our authority to really look after the park. This is the only piece of public land in this 43-mile corridor. All the other easements have been on private land. And we, as a town, as the select board, are ceding our responsibility to the Public Service Board. I think we could further refine this agreement, have the opportunity to really understand more from a wetlands or an ecologist what the ramifications are of the HDD. I think this process has really made me lose confidence in the ability of the state to protect the public, to protect us, the citizens, to protect the land. They've demonstrated that they did not do their due diligence on this project. Our only experience is with the park and with the wetlands situation. But I know that they have gone through other wetlands. Therefore, I will not support this agreement because I don't think that we are serving the long-term good of the citizens of Hinesburg or the park. And I won't be voting for it.
So I guess I'll finish with my 2 cents. I guess I'll start out again by thanking everybody. It's been quite a process. But what I really want to thank everybody for is the way the process has been done in terms of respectful discussion with everybody and not outbursts and being respectful of everybody's opinion. It actually makes me proud to be a member of this town for the way this was handled. Watching the news and other things, I think that's an important thing to me. So thank you for making me proud. I think we've actually done some good things with this negotiation, and it's been a negotiation. We have eminent domain that hangs over this in this discussion. I think the horizontal drilling is the best choice. I haven't found a better one yet. I think and I think we've done, I'm going to shorten this up. I think we've just done this as, I will be voting in favor of this because I support the idea and the way it's being done and being part of the process. So, with that, I'm going to read the motion one more time. Put my glasses on. And we'll vote.
Well, can I just ask one thing? It's like, I would like to see, we don't have a final version of this with all the track changes and the feasibility, so
you have a final version. All you need are the 3 or 4 amendments that you've written down.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, with all the other I's and T's dotted, I hope, and feasibility taken
This
out.
is it.
Okay.
It was. All right.
Could you just go over the amendments again,
Yeah,
just to clarify?
Okay. Sure. The motion is to accept. Wow, sorry, did it again, folks. Consider a motion to accept version 0604 of the deed of easement, stipulated agreement, and attachments with the following amendments. Compensation to be $250,000. Vermont Gas shall horizontal directional drilling to cross Geprags Park and minimize wetlands impacts. Vermont Gas shall secure a performance bond for the directional drilling. And the last one is on page 3, section 13, to strike the $470,000 number. And the motion was made by Tom, it was seconded, I believe, by Aaron. So, all those in favor say...
12 was stricken too?
12 was stricken too. That was, yeah. Okay. Thank you.
How much is the performance bond for? I mean, there's details on this that I just think it's not right to be voting on something that we don't have a fully legal document to be looking at.
Okay, so...
But
we're
I'm
gonna
not
vote on
voting
the motion.
so.
Thank you. All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
Any abstentions? The motion passes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So we don't have any other business, Warren. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
There's nothing else?
Yeah. Unless there are warrants.
So moved?
Second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Thank you, everybody.